Hey guys, welcome back to Laurence McKenna on LFC channel, where Liverpool have just beaten Real Madrid 1-0. That was where the Real Madrid fans were tonight, that was where the Liverpool fans were, and that was where we were. Fu, how you feeling? We're winning it all! Let's get on with the review. It's been a good run. We're talking about confidence, we're talking about shapes, we're talking about changes, we're talking about structure, we're talking about weak opposition. Let's get into it. Yeah, absolutely. We should get into it because there is a lot to unpack tonight. And I've been talking about a lot of different issues around this Liverpool side. Some people call them deficiencies, some people call them glaring errors, some people call them gaps, some people calling them coaching problems, some calling them individual errors, some calling them lots of different things. And everyone had diagnosed Liverpool with lots of different issues over the last few weeks. And there were quite a few glaring issues. But the fact is that if we can see it, then Liverpool can also see it. And I'd imagine that loads of the times they feel like they've got a bit of a solve. The issue was, I think there was a big confidence issue in this Liverpool side, not only in themselves and some of the individuals in certain positions, but also in where they were moving the system. And I don't think they've stopped that. I don't think they've completely gotten rid of that. There are still some big solves in there that they need to get in. Isak, Kirkes, Frimpong, working out this midfield in the long run, working out the shape, all different sorts of things. But in the seeming reversion to last season's system, which is actually more of just a shape change and Liverpool being confident in that shape, and then also, we'll talk about this in a little while, but something we really pointed out last season was a lot of partnerships and pairings, which worked really well, or little systems within systems that worked really well. And we saw that a lot last year, especially in the midfield, but also then out wide. Liverpool are now working on that, and I'm going to break down some of those for you because I think it's worth doing, right? So, first of all, confidence. Confidence overall in this Liverpool team was particularly low. You could see it. It was so evident because they were just leaking goals. They were not attacking with any sort of verve or even just belief, it felt like at one point. The criticism was not getting to them, but I think it was impacting them. And I think you could see the impact from the post-match interview that Virgil van Dijk gave. It was pretty significant, really, that this team was going through this and they felt they had to arrest this slide. Not only that, they had to perform because he said, all the time, you are not far away from these kind of performances at the very top of football. And that felt very pertinent to me. It felt very important that he was acknowledging that all of this was actually quite normal at the top of football. And whilst the results were not normal for Liverpool, the pressure and all those other things and all the other things that people have obviously been pointing out in recent weeks, which is partially why I've also kind of reserved a bit of judgment on this team rather than going in on them, they seem to be a part and parcel of the game for a lot of these players. But he also spoke about the youth and the kind of the impact on a lot of those players that some of the comments have had, but also that Liverpool is still trying to bed these guys in. And behind the scenes, they felt like they were bedding in better than in a lot of the games, and they were waiting for them to perform. And that's very reasonable. And they did perform tonight, not only some of the stalwarts of the side, but also some of those newer players. So let's get into that because I want to break down some of the individual performances. I think Liverpool overall as a side were fantastic. The pressing, the effort, things which we almost see as like not part of the Liverpool team in recent weeks were all extremely evident. And then I'm also going to caveat all of that because going into the City game this weekend, I think that's the hardest of the 3 games Liverpool are going to play. And I think this, week of death or whatever you want to call it, that, Liverpool have apparently been going through or midway through now, it won't be picked apart if we don't win against City. But I think it's also slightly misleading because I think all of the sides we've played or will play have different faults in them or different things we can try and pick apart. And if we face them not on their day, we can easily pick those things apart. I think to an extent we got that against Madrid. I also think we made Madrid look extremely, and I mean extremely ordinary today. There were moments where they, got through, but I never felt in the stadium like they were ever really on top. I never really felt like they were ever really in a position to pick Liverpool apart. And whilst they did have a couple of counter-attacks and Jude Bellingham had a nice few driving runs and a couple of nice passing combinations with Mbappe, it never really felt like they got off to the races. And Liverpool definitely felt like they were there early. A lot of people talking about, riding Liverpool's storms. And, maybe if Liverpool don't score that goal and Courtois has a great game, which he did, by the way, even though we scored, we are talking about a completely different feeling. But the actual performance was good. Now,
Tactically, I think there's still a lot for Liverpool to be doing. I think they're still working this out. And to an extent, the reason I'm saying that is because I want to see this team move forward. And I think actually what we've done is we've gone closer to what originally Slot kind of played with this side and what Slot probably is more used to playing, but also where some Liverpool players feel a bit more comfortable. So let's go through. Should we just go individual? Mamardashvili, I thought was very good. Not overly called into service tonight, but looked very solid. Commanded his box, pretty good, right? Made the saves when he needed to, and really there were only a couple of moments when he was called into question to an extent. So that's good. I think that, again, he's young. Verge acknowledged it in the post-match interview with Amazon. Get into that again, probably in a whole other video tomorrow. And then you've got that back line, which again kept another clean sheet. We kept on against Villa. We'll keep on against Real Madrid. And, let's see what happens with City. Conor Bradley, one of my men of the match tonight. I think if Alexis McAllister hadn't won it, I think he wins it for me. He was fantastic. One-on-one with Vinny, kept up with the pace. Only a few times I feel, is Vinny in? And then he really wasn't. And most of the time he was in front of the crosses. Most of the time he was very much in front of him. Most of the time being very physical in just the right way, dealing with him in a very good way. And thank God the ref kind of let him, deal with him in such a way. It did feel like the ref at one point was kind of calling things all against us, whereas actually, it felt like we were much more even than we maybe we would have been against another side, because I do feel like Real Madrid did get a lot of the calls in that first half. They switched us the other way. We were going towards the Kop. That made us feel a bit uncomfortable. The atmosphere was a little bit, is it going to be good? Is it going to be bad? And you could see they were kind of preying on that. But Bradley and the performance of players like that really made us feel good tonight in Anfield. It really brought the best out of a lot of those people in the stadium. So great. The centre-back pairing. And then I'm also going to kind of pair in Robertson here. That felt like the back four felt like a unit, but that unit in particular was very strong tonight. Virgil van Dijk was commanding. Virgil van Dijk was in control, as he always seems to have been, but he didn't have to step up in the same way as I've normally seen him step up. And he was very good, but solid rather than needing to be heroic. It worked. Konate, very similar. I think there are a few times where Konate kind of headed the ball up and it was a bit weird and it felt like, where are you really going with that? And there are still times where he makes unusual decisions, but we kept a clean sheet. And I'm just going to take the good and I'm going to keep that rolling for now, because I will address the negative at some point. Andy Robertson. I don't know how long this run can go on, but it is a good run. He's been fantastic for Liverpool over the years, and he's kind of recapturing some of that nous, some of that experience, and he's using that experience really well at the moment, and it's serving him really well. I think, a lot of people, probably including me, felt that his best days were behind him, and maybe that is still the case. But he's really using his intelligence and his reading of the game to serve Liverpool well right now, and it's working really well for whichever player is ahead of him. I love it. The midfield. We started with the midfield three that we started with last year. Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai. Szoboszlai much more roaming than he was last year. McAllister just as aggressive as he was, and Gravenberch offering that balance, that counter pivot, whatever you want to call it. I thought it was fantastic. There will be people who work that out. There will be people who think of that as a little one-dimensional. There'll be people who don't think of that as innovative because we played it before. And I'm fine with all of that while Liverpool are building momentum, while Liverpool are building towards what it is that we need, just to rebalance the team, just to sort of say, hey, we are here and, we're arresting this slide. But it was a very combative midfield. It was set up for two things. Combat the numbers that Madrid had and that we anticipated Madrid would shove into the middle because they were quite narrow this evening. And then on the other side of that, enable Wirtz to roam wherever he wanted. And Szoboszlai was such a perfect counterbalance. McAllister, such a perfect counterbalance. Two really empathetic players, and players that on their best day get a really good relationship going with the other attacking players. But Wirtz today was allowed to roam. Wirtz today was allowed to find the space, was allowed to wander over to the right, to the left, into the middle. And really, he was on either wing, so it wasn't so much in the middle. But when you did see him in any of those spaces, it was looking really good. And it allowed Ekitike the same kind of thing. You could see there was one point where Ekitike was through the middle, and in the end, he ended up out wide. We ended up putting Gakpo there. We had that kind of the switch from the 4-3-3 into more like a 4-2-2-2 or a 4-4-2, but then like a wide front two in Gakpo and Salah, who were then bombing into the box and just enabling Wirtz and Szoboszlai or McAllister, whoever's arriving on the edge of the box, to be involved in that attacking play. So I was really impressed with that, and it worked really well. It's one of my favorite Arne Slot formations, one of the best things I've seen him do at his time at the club. And then finally, Mo Salah. Mo Salah is thriving in this space. He's thriving in the reversion that I think we're kind of talking about, back to the kind of 4-3-3, 4-4-2, 4-2-2-2, whatever you want to call it. He's thriving in that wide space, coming inside, attacking his players. And there are still times where, to me, it seems fairly evident that he knows that there isn't an option in the middle he wants to exploit yet. So he just sort of runs into the player. And there are times where I think, would I rather he look back at Conor Bradley or someone else? And Liverpool are much better at recycling possession and moving the ball quickly in these last few games. But there are times where I think we commit and we lose it for almost no reason. No reason. We lose it because we commit, but we lose it for a reason we don't need to. And there are times where there are good passing options and Liverpool aren't exploiting them yet. And I think we'll get used to seeing those, and maybe we aren't willing to take those risks in big games, but yeah, it works essentially. And I'm very happy with that. And finally, some of the subs. It was great to see. It was great to see Chiesa on. I would have liked to see Rio and Gamer go. Trent Alexander-Arnold kind of pin him back a little bit. And Madrid didn't really start him in the game, but they didn't start him in the game. When they brought him on, the booing started. I'm all for fans expressing themselves, and there's a lot of people really getting on us for the booing. But express yourself. Like, just be a fan. Do whatever it is you want to do. Be grateful. And again, we were trying to put him off his game. Just accept it, guys. Like, that's the way that football is. It's not disrespectful. It's not any of these things. It's counteracting the moves that someone else is making. Fine by me. And anyone who wants to pass judgment or talk about you'll never walk alone or whatever, you'll never walk alone is a very, very specific message, and is a very, very, it has become a capture all and kind of a bit of stick to beat Liverpool fans with every time that we don't act in the way that someone else wants us to. I'm happy for us to boo. I'm happy for us to kind of express ourselves as fans. And, when he's in a Liverpool shirt, sure, as Jamie Carragher said, maybe don't boo him, or maybe make your feelings known and then move on. He's not in a Liverpool shirt anymore. He's not a Liverpool player anymore. And he's next Liverpool player, sure. And I'm sure that he will get a lovely greeting one day at Anfield, but it's not right now. And that will come, I'm sure, one day when he's a legend of the club or whatever. He's a legend of Madrid or whatever it is. But broadly, yeah, I agree with what was did tonight in Anfield, and I was fine with it. Overall, I've got to admit, I didn't think Madrid were all that good. I don't think they challenged us all that much, very similar to Aston Villa. And that is my concern, is that maybe there is something we can pick apart here by Man City. But that is still left to be seen. And there are a lot of games last season where I sort of said very similar things. And I do think there are still some deficiencies in this side. Kanate is still quite open. There are times where we still get caught dawdling on the ball. There are times where we make poor decisions, passing the ball out the back through the middle for no apparent reason, or for apparent reasons that we then get caught on. So we have to be much sharper in those areas. There are times where we do get caught kind of not quite being sharp enough to pass the ball through the areas we want to, and it is a little bit disappointing. But overall, I think broadly good. Moving in the right direction. Not the finished product, not settled on a system or one starting 11 or whatever. But Arne Slot has gone back to his core. He's gone back to, and it will grow away from that over time, and will grow away towards different shapes and different orientations. And, obviously we'll rotate to keep people fit. But going into the international break, we'll have played 3 huge games, and we'll have got 6 points minimum, 9 points maximum. And it is a big confidence boost to go into the weekend, come off the Villa game, into the Real Madrid game, into Man City, to go into the big game at the weekend and know we are a decent side. We're a confident team. We're a team that should be going out there and thinking about, putting the opposition to the sword and really challenging them. I don't think many people expect us, including me, to challenge Madrid in the way that we did tonight, to dominate the game in the way that we did, to create 4, 5 really big chances for ourselves, dominate the XG, dominate the passing, control them even when they had the ball, intimidate them at Anfield. And now we've got that away trip to the Etihad. Preview for that later in the week. But I'd love to know what you guys think. There'll be another video tomorrow morning unpacking a lot more of what happened in this game. But let me know in the comments below what you thought was fantastic. All of that seemed fairly obvious to me. Tonight, I think Anfield was instrumental in the way that we performed. Courtois was absolutely fantastic, but we kept knocking at that door. We were relentless. We were bothersome. We were exactly the kind of fans that we want to be at Anfield, making the opposition uncomfortable. And I love that. We're a big, big part of that game. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Specific detail, finally, Slot has outthought quite a few of these big managers and made them look fairly ponderous. And that is not just down to a bad day at the office. That is not down to our team just being lucky on any one day. It's down to Arne Slot setting up and going past the man-for-man press, going past the quite basic things really from Real Madrid. It felt like fairly unchallenging really when we were inside Anfield. And the thing that I really love is Arne Slot. The thing that I really love is that we've backed him, and in this time we've really stood by him. Not that we didn't need to, not that we would have sacked him, but in times where lots of other people calling for his head, in times where lots of other people saying thought he lost it or whatever, we chanted his name. And I love that he acknowledged that back. Post-match press conference with Virgil van Dijk. Virg was stood next to Wayne Rooney on Amazon. It was actually a really good interview. He was very honest. I thought he was very candid in the way that he spoke to Wayne Rooney, and I really enjoyed it. And just to that panel in general, he laid down a lot of the kind of that's part of football thing, which also may not have been part of football for some of those older guys on the panel. They may have changed mentality since then. They may have witnessed some of that mentality, but not possessed it themselves, whatever you want to call it. He called out some of the poor comments that have been made over the last week, and I don't think all of them were pointed at Wayne Rooney. I think some of them were pointed towards more general TalkSport area kind of comments, but it's almost by the by. He was very clear in his message. This Liverpool side is still bedding in. This Liverpool side is still in transition. This Liverpool side is feeling more comfortable in the way that we are playing, and Anfield is feeling more comfortable in the way that we're playing. That it can only be a positive for us. Winning games against Real Madrid and Aston Villa can only be positives for us. Some people say it's papering over the cracks. I say it is getting confidence, getting momentum, and not treating everything, as a lot of people have said, and as I have felt, as the be-all and end-all, or the do or die, or the judgment of the entire side 10 games into the season. Remember how consistent we've been on this channel about that, guys. I think that's really important. Not to judge, not to jump to conclusions. To say, yeah, I don't think, we've had the particularly great left-back situation for a while, or I think midfield does need to be a bit more progressive at times. Very, very progressive tonight. And the final thing I'll call out is actually the progression of Wirtz and Szoboszlai. I love Szoboszlai. I love what he's doing for all the people around him. And I love Wirtz and what he's doing for all the people around him. But that duo, that feels like NBA, NFL, iconic picture style, Jordan, Pippen, Kobe, Shaq style shapes to me. Maybe Travis Kelce. Yeah, maybe. I mean, who's the quarterback in that one? But Travis Kelce, Pat Mahomes, maybe along those lines. But yeah, I think Wirtz has been through a lot in the recent weeks. We forget how young he is because he's very experienced. I said tonight to a friend while we were walking back from the ground to the hotel where we are, we didn't expect Modric to get a goal every game. We expect him to influence the pace. And that is very much what Szoboszlai and Wirtz are. They are pace controllers. They're absolutely controlling players. And I'm really enjoying watching us control the game in a slightly more dynamic way than the way that we did last season. But I'll be interested to see if Pep gives us that on the weekend. I will do, obviously, a preview. I will speak more about the details that have come out of the game later, some of the fantastic tackles that Conor Bradley put in, how satisfying those things are, how great they are to watch, how brilliant it is to see that dynamism and that there is still confidence and life in these guys after a difficult period. I don't think it's over necessarily, but I do think we are remembering a lot of the positives, and those will help to pry us away from the difficult issues that we have right now. So let me know in the comments below what you guys think. And of course, there is a Discord, of course, there's membership, and of course, there's Patreon. If you want to go and hit that, that is where we get the best cut of what it is that's going on. Help us make content that we do. Help us to make this, obviously, a bit easier for us. And I will chat to you guys in a little while tomorrow. Much love.